Hello everyone, welcome back to Total Football Talk. So thank you very much for joining me this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever it is you're actually joining me. I'm Keith, and we are going to look at the latest news coming out of Manchester United. And as always, there's plenty, but I'm going to start with some stories that have come out recently in regards to both the striker position and also the goalkeeper position. Now, I mean, we'll look at those two stories. We'll also look at a little bit about Pedro Goncalves from Sporting, who's a player that Manchester United are interested in, an attacking midfielder. We'll have a little look at him, and we'll also have a look and chat a little bit about the Wright and Keane debate that actually took place yesterday, or was it the day before, on the overlap. Just to get your opinions on it. Would really love to hear what you guys think about, because obviously they were talking about Burno and the situation surrounding the Manchester United captaincy, which is just, I mean, like everything else around Manchester United, obviously Keane was getting extremely frustrated, and Ian Wright and him had a good old debate, ding dong, call it what you want. They kind of got stuck into each other, and that was fascinating watching the other day. But what we'll do is we'll start with the top stories. So we'll start with going from literally back to front. So we'll start with the goalkeeper, and there's news coming out that Manchester United are interested in Espanyol's highly rated young goalkeeper, Joan Garcia. Now, what I know about him is not very much, apart from the fact that he's 22, I believe. He's quite young. He's a rookie goalkeeper in the Spanish league, but he's been doing very well according to all reports. He has a lot about him. He can dominate the box when he comes for crosses. He's a good shot stopper, and he's good with his feet. Now, I believe as a goalkeeper in the current climate, you have to be good at all three things. Can't be just a good shot stopper and not be good with your feet. You can't just be kind of good with your feet, but you've got to be able to kind of demand and command your box. The other goalkeeper that Manchester United are linked with is Borussia Dortmund's Kobol. We've been linked with him in the past as well. I'd love to know what do you think? Do you think Kobol would be a good shout? Do you think this young kid Garcia would be a good shout? There's also another goalkeeper in the mix as well. I'll get to him in a second. But I think a young goalkeeper like this could be our David De Gea. But if you remember, I remember De Gea coming in, and in his first season he absolutely struggled because he was, even though he had all the agility in the world, he was absolutely brilliant. He was very weak. As in structure, his body wasn't able to cope with the Premier League and the physicality that came along with that. He really struggled initially when he arrived. But Alex Ferguson stuck with him. He believed in him, and he thought this was going to be the keeper to be a potential legend of Manchester United. And he was. Legendary status is a funny one, because obviously he is in the mix with the likes of Peter Schmeichel and Van der Sar, who were two unbelievable goalkeepers. And it took us, in between us finding those goalkeepers, we went through a lot of goalkeepers, Barthez and Taibbi, Mark Bosnich, to name just a few goalkeepers that we actually had to go through a cycle of, having goalkeepers that were up and coming, or goalkeepers that, were World Cup winners, or, as in Bosnich's case, he was ready at United when he was very young and he got moved on. So we went back and we looked at different styles of goalkeepers, but none of them really fitted between Schmeichel and Van der Sar properly. Even Fabian Barthez struggled, as crazy as cookie as he was. Unfortunately, he struggled to kind of cope under the pressure of Manchester United, and he didn't quite live up to his billing after having won the World Cup in '98. We have got to look at a lot of different goalkeepers, and we eventually got to Van der Sar, who was brilliant. Then we went through a transitional period. Then we got to David De Gea, who was brilliant. Now, is this young goalkeeper Garcia? Is he going to be the next up and coming young goalkeeper from Spain that Manchester United are going to go for? Can he come in and handle the pressure? If you remember when we signed Dubravnik from Newcastle, and we had him for a very short period of time, he played one game or maybe two games, and he absolutely struggled in that jersey, in that number 1 jersey. And I do believe the pressure of playing in the number 1 jersey and the number 9 jersey in particular are very tough positions to play for Manchester United. And these people struggled. Dubravnik, he never cut the mustard, so unfortunately we just had to release him. He went back to Newcastle, and he's doing very well there. And he's trying to keep him and Nick Pope have a good battle going on. But Manchester United don't have a battle at all, because Onana is dreadful. Unfortunately, he had a little bit of an upturn at the start of the season. He made some very very impressive saves, possibly even saves of the season, and then he's just kind of spiraled out of control and gone backwards, and it's so frustrating because there's potential in some of the things he does, but then his ability to play out from the back's awful. Like so many long balls just go to no one, or in positions where Hoyland can't hold them up. And even some of the short passes, I mean, he's just passing them to the opposition player. So Onana's been an absolute nightmare. And as the caption says, Onana, is it your time to go? I think he probably will go in the summer, but only if we can find not a cheap way, but we've got to find a financial way to make it viable to bring in a goalkeeper. And I think it's a really important one that we need to look at because it's a vital role. Saves, if you have a goalkeeper worth their salt, they can save you 14, 15 points a season. Unfortunately, Onana's probably costing us that many points at the minute as opposed to saving us those. So we do need to, we do have to address that very, very quickly. Now, so the other goalkeeper that's being linked with Manchester United, and I find this one slightly strange, is James Trafford, and this is, Give Me Sport. And now obviously they're a mixed bag in terms of where they are with their reporting. Sometimes you get some good stuff, sometimes you don't get some good stuff. Sometimes it's very, very mixed with them. But obviously it's saying that Manchester United could hijack Newcastle's move for James Trafford. Now, obviously Newcastle have, as I mentioned, Dubravnik and Pope. And now Trafford's a younger goalkeeper than those two. I mean, not that either Dubravnik or Pope are old in terms of goalkeeping ages. A goalkeeper doesn't really hit his prime until he's kind of so his late 20s, and they can go on until their mid 30s and still have an unbelievable presence, and they can do very well over that period of time because goalkeepers mature a lot older. So obviously these are two young goalkeepers we're looking at. Trafford was with Burnley last year. I believe he's still with Burnley, and he had last year I think he struggled again under the physicality of the Premier League. He went from City, where he hadn't played a single game, and they paid a lot of money for him, around £20 million. He went to Burnley, and he had some good games, but oh my god, he struggled on crosses, etc. Now I've not seen him really play in the Championship this season, so maybe he has bulked up, maybe he has kind of found his feet, and maybe there is an interesting sort of take on whether James Trafford could be a good goalkeeper for Manchester United. He is a potential England number one in the future. He did win the Euros with England a couple of seasons ago for the under-21s, and he did. I remember watching that particular final. He did play very well, but he's a young goalkeeper again, and again the weight of the jersey and the expectation of playing for Manchester United. It's a risk. It's a risk with Garcia. It's a risk with Trafford if it's true. But I do believe that we are looking at goalkeepers, and I do believe that we do need to look at that area because it is an area that has caused us a lot of problems, especially since De Gea's left. And De Gea had his issues, but I do believe that De Gea probably wouldn't have had as many issues as Onana's had because Onana's he's fallen off a cliff, and I do not think there's a way back for him. And now there was another story, and this is slightly disappointing. So we've looked at one end. We've looked at the goalkeeping situation, which is a vital and integral part of the team. Got to get that right. Said they can save you points, and they can really help you progress the team moving forward if you've got the right goalkeeper. But Victor Osimhen. I was reporting that from the Turkish side, 95% done. Osimhen's coming. Weeha! Happy days. And now the reports are that Victor Osimhen is currently not a topic at Manchester United. You never know how the market will develop, but that's exactly the kind of signing the club normally no longer want to make. His release clause is around 58 million. Now, for a striker of his caliber, now whether he's got the right attitude to play for Manchester United, there's various stories, both sides. Napoli did try to get rid of him and sold him a contract and said if someone comes in and offers us X, we'll talk. Clubs did. They never honoured it. He then threw his toys out of the pram and he wanted to go. He wanted out, so he went to Galatasaray and he's done very well there. And now obviously he's looking for a move. I don't think Napoli have kind of managed the situation very well, and it's starting to be reported now. And I think people just see the other side to it and think Victor Osimhen is just a child who is throwing his toys out of the pram and just wants to make whatever noise he wants to go and to get out of his contract. So obviously, two sides to that story. Tell me how you feel. I mean, which side do you fall on? But as I said, in the whole kind of in the whole state of this, scenario. We obviously are looking at goalkeepers. We're looking at Victor Osimhen. We are apparently looking at Goicoechea still is a potential for Manchester United. Now, the thing about Goicoechea signing, if we did go for him, I mean, he's the same price. So I don't know why they're saying, and he's around the same age. He's one of them's a bit younger. I think Osimhen's slightly younger. Goicoechea will be 27, and another 58, 59, maybe 60 million pound striker. So realistically, if we want an experienced striker, we're going to have to spend some money, unless we go for a Delap, who will get relegated. Now, have you seen him play against United on Wednesday night? He is a very good player. He's very tenacious. He has a lot of skill. He will score goals because he's done so in the Premier League so far. But do we need another unproven 21-year-old playing up front for us? With Højlund, it's been absolutely difficult. And once the confidence went, he just hasn't been able to recover. Do we want Delap in the same situation? Or do we want a proven striker who can come in and do a good job for Ruben Amorim? Goicoechea, he knows, so he could come in and do that job straight away. He understands the system. He knows how Ruben wants to play. And I think that is probably the better one to go for Ruben. Victor Osimhen, Victor Goicoechea, whoever. I think we need an experienced striker. Now, there is talk of Jonathan Davies, from the Canadian striker, coming in because he leaves on a free. And when his contract's up in the summer, is he the alternative? Because he's cheaper in terms of we don't have to pay a transfer fee, but he will want big wages. Now, as well Goicoechea, as well Osimhen. So we're still going to have this issue of, are we going to be able to get a striker? Are we going to be able to afford a striker? And what type of striker are we going to go for? It's going to be a young one. Tell me what you think. Do you think we should go for a younger striker again? Do you think we should take that risk? Or should we try and go for something more tested, tried and proven, like an Osimhen or Goicoechea? I'm more in the tested and proven market. I think that's where we need to go, but I have a bad feeling that we're not going to go there now with these reports and cold water being thrown on some of these reports. Now, the last couple of little bits of news are Manchester United are monitoring the rehabilitation of Pedro Goncalves ahead of a potential move. Ruben Amorim is hugely keen on acquiring the player, and there's confidence in manufacturing a PSR friendly package that should United proceed with this. Now, an attacking midfielder is what we do need. Another sporting player. What we have to be careful here of is, and I don't mind players coming in, and I don't mind, managers want their players and they bring in the players from previous teams, but we just got to be careful. Quenda's another one. We've been linked with Ignacio. We've been linked with Diamonde. We've been linked with a lot of players at Sporting, and obviously that's going to happen. The press are going to do it because he's a Portuguese manager and that's where he worked before. I get it. But we are going to be linked with probably more Portuguese players going forward, and we're only in February. The transfer window is still a while before we're open. And as I said, even when we do get a transfer, it's probably not going to take place early doors because United don't want to pay the wages over the summer. So that's where we are on that one. Let me know what you think. He's an attacking midfielder. He was one of the best players last year, or was it the year before, had the top assists in the league with Sporting with Ruben. So obviously he knows him. Again, he understands the situation, he understands the formation, and he will slot in. But again, will he be able to do it at Manchester United? Everybody's a risk. But yeah, just so this is kind of one to monitor. Let's see what happens with that. And then finally, we'll just talk about the old debate that was going on yesterday. I've left it to the end, but the Roy Keane, Ian Wright on the Burno debate. Obviously, Ian Wright is in Bruno's camp. Roy Keane is in the camp that Burno isn't the captain that Manchester United need. And obviously, Roy is probably one of the greatest captains to have ever walked the planet. He was unbelievable from Manchester United. I've seen him play for the Republic of Ireland, who I also support, and he's been phenomenal for them. Obviously, he had his issues with managers there too. Kind of follows Roy Keane around. But Roy Keane makes really good points here. I think both sides have good points. Ian Wright is right in the sense that Burno has been very important to Manchester United and going forward, in the present. But I've watched him over the last 18 months and I found him a struggle. I've found him difficult to watch. I don't think he's has many good games, despite the fact that, pundits keep giving him man of the matches whenever I think there are other players better on the pitch than him. Roy Keane is 10 times the captain that Burno was in every way, shape and form. But even though he may not agree with that, I do think that, because Roy Keane's a very undervalued footballer for his ball. He was he was a brilliant midfielder who worked up and down tirelessly, but he had a lot more skill than people gave him credit for, and he scored a lot of important goals for Manchester United, as has Burno. Very different players, very different captains, And I just think that Roy had a point, and Ian Wright has a point, and they both have points, and they kind of sit in the middle, and it was a good old debate. And I just think that Bruno's maybe coming to his end of a tenure at Manchester United, and I think we need to be looking at a possible replacement for Bruno maybe next season. He's not the biggest problem, but he is a problem. And I think going forward, we've got to sort this one out. But there are other bigger problems first, like the striker and the goalkeeper, which we've already talked about. Okay, guys, that's your 10-minute roundup. Thank you very much. I'm Keith. If you would hit a like and subscribe on the video, I'd absolutely appreciate it. Thank you much. Thank you very much for all the comments coming through. And a shout out to Killian. Killian, sorry, I should have done this early doors. Thank you very much for your comments, Killian. And you know who you are, kid. Thank you very much for if you're watching this. But yeah, shout out to Killian. Thank you very much, guys. I will catch you on tomorrow's one, and let's see what happens over the next 24 hours, because I'm sure there'll be plenty of news. Over and out.